I remember the first time she walked into my kitchen and told me she hated her mirror. Maya's voice was small, like she expected me to fix something broken and vanish. She was in her late 30s, two small kids, a job that never slept, and a waistline that seemed to have its own stubborn calendar. "It's this belly," she said, fingers hovering over cloth as if it were a secret. "I eat well sometimes, I exercise, but it feels like my body decided to keep a little life of its own around my middle." I put the kettle on and listened. Over the hiss of steam, I said what I always say first. There's almost always a story under the shape, and for many women, that story has cortisol in the margins. Stay with me until the end. I'll walk you through practical foods that can help nudge that story back toward balance, and I'll show you how to fit them into a real day. If this helps, consider subscribing so I can keep sharing practical, science-rooted steps like these. We began at the beginning. Stress makes cortisol. Cortisol nudges the body's survival programs, and those programs favor energy parked where it can be quickly used, the visceral belly fat that shows up like a stubborn battery pack. Cortisol also affects sleep, appetite, inflammation, and even the microbes in your gut, all of which play into biological aging. The good news, I told her as I chopped an apple, food can be part of the counteroffensive, not magic, not an overnight fix, but steady, layered change that acts like an engine tune-up for your metabolism. 10. Blueberries, the small reset button. I handed Maya a bowl of frozen berries that smelled like summer thawing. Anthocyanins, I explained, are the pigments that give blueberries their deep blue. They act like tiny antioxidants and may help calm inflammation and protect cells from oxidative damage. Research suggests regular berry intake is associated with improved markers of cognitive aging and metabolic health, though no single food is a silver bullet. Practical tip: a cup a day, fresh or frozen, stirred into yogurt or oatmeal. Caveat: frozen is fine, but watch added sugars and berry products. Think of them as a soft, refreshing reset pressed into your morning, a little button that tells your cells, keep steady. 9. Green tea, liquid longevity in a cup. The steam curled between us as I poured. The green color was almost verdant. The key compound is ECGC, a polyphenol that supports mitochondrial function and can help blunt cortisol spikes after acute stress. Studies have linked regular green tea consumption to improved metabolic markers and lowered inflammation. Practical tip: sip 2 to 3 cups a day, ideally without sugar. Matcha gives a stronger dose if you like the flavor. Caveat: caffeine sensitivity and interactions with medications mean you should time it carefully. Imagine green tea as gentle engine oil for your cells, keeping the moving parts smooth. 8. Fatty fish, the skin rebuilder. I described the smell of a lemon and dill salmon fillet grilling, how the kitchen fills with a warm, savory promise. Omega-3s, EPA and DHA, help modulate inflammation and influence cortisol signaling in the brain. Populations that eat more oily fish tend to show lower markers of chronic inflammation and better heart health. Practical tip: aim for 2 servings a week of wild-caught salmon, mackerel, or sardines. If you don't eat fish, consider a reputable omega-3 supplement after consulting your clinician. Caveat: choose low-mercury options and balance with plant sources of omega-3 where appropriate. Picture omega-3s as a repair balm for skin and blood vessels, smoothing out the wear that stress can roughen. 7. Leafy greens, magnesium's quiet armor. I set a plate of garlicly sautéed spinach in front of her and watched Maya close her eyes at the scent. Leafy greens are rich in magnesium and other micronutrients that support GABA signaling, relax muscles, and help with sleep, all important in dialing down baseline cortisol. Observational studies tie higher green vegetable intake to better metabolic profiles. Practical tip: a generous serving with 2 meals a day. Toss raw into salads, wilt into pastas, or blend into smoothies. Caveat: if you're on blood thinners or certain medications, check with your provider. Think of greens as your internal armor, simple, green plates that cushion stress's blows. 6. Olive oil, the Mediterranean drizzle of steady resilience. I uncorked a bottle and let the peppery aroma drift. Extra virgin olive oil is high in oleic acid and polyphenols that support anti-inflammatory pathways and endothelial health. Dietary patterns rich in olive oil correlate with reduced risk factors for metabolic disease. Practical tip: use it raw where possible. Drizzle over salads, finish roasted vegetables, or stir into grains. Caveat: it's calorically dense, so be mindful of portions. Imagine a ribbon of liquid longevity that coats and soothes, not a heavy sauce, but a calming glaze. 5. Turmeric, golden repair. I ground a bit into warm milk to show her the color and the scent, like sun on a winter sidewalk. Curcumin, turmeric's active compound, can activate NRF2 pathways that help cells upregulate detox and repair systems. It's been studied for anti-inflammatory and mitochondrial supporting effects. Practical tip: incorporate turmeric into curries, golden lattes, or marinades with black pepper to increase absorption. Caveat: high doses aren't for everyone and may interact with medications. Picture turmeric as the golden mechanic that nudges the repair crew into motion. 4. Cruciferous sprouts, the detox commanders. I passed a tin of broccoli sprouts across the counter. They looked like a tiny green forest. These sprouts are rich in sulforaphane, which prompts cellular defense systems, supports liver detox pathways, and may influence hormone metabolism. System. There was a scene in which Maya made pancakes with almond flour and mashed blueberries, and the kitchen felt like a small success. The batter smelled of vanilla and citrus. The children's laughter ran like a warm ribbon through the air. She told me about one morning when she noticed her jeans fit a fraction easier and how that little victory rewired her confidence for the week. Those wins don't erase decades of stress-adapted metabolism, I said, but they shift the narrative. Biological systems respond to repeated gentle signals. Adding a cup of berries, a drizzle of olive oil, a few bites of fermented food daily, these are tiny pushings in a new direction. Along the way, I made sure to anchor the advice. Studies suggest associations. Mechanisms explain plausibility. Your individual response will vary. If you're on medications, pregnant, breastfeeding, or have a chronic condition, check with your clinician before making big dietary shifts. I also urged her to look beyond the scale. Cortisol belly is as much about how you feel in your skin and how your energy slices through the day as about an inch on a tape measure. The story's crunch came when Maya returned 3 months later with a simple question and an unexpected lightness. Her face wasn't unmarked. Life still delivered stressors. But there was an ease now when she reached for a shirt, a steadier breath when she laughed. She had added the foods in a way that fit her life. Blueberries folded into breakfasts, green tea as a mindful pause between meetings, salmon twice a week, fermented veg spooned over grain bowls, a square of dark chocolate as a deliberate end to the day. She'd improved sleep by dimming screens and accepting shorter evening workouts that calmed rather than stimulated. She hadn't eradicated cortisol. Rather, she had taught her system that not every alarm requires a full mobilization. I told her that's exactly what we aim for: resilience, not eradication. We framed it as an engine tune-up and a change in fuel, not a complete rebuild. The metaphors helped: food as armor, the gut as a time machine, olive oil as liquid longevity. They made the science feel like a lived habit. There are practical rhythms I recommended for a week to start. Pick 2 foods from the list to add daily. Aim for a protein plus fiber focus at meals to stabilize blood sugar. Prioritize sleep hygiene and add small movement breaks that lower stress without spiking cortisol. We talked about measurable markers she could track with her clinician: sleep quality, fasting glucose, how her clothes fit, not a single obsessing number. And we planned for setbacks: travel, late nights, parenting surges, all expected. The goal was to be reliably kind to her own system, not perfect. Before she left, she pressed her hand to my wrist and said, "I didn't know I could change the story." I smiled and reminded her that stories are always changing when you feed them different lines. The kitchen smelled of lemon and turmeric and something like hope. I walked her to the door and told her to call if she wanted a recipe or a check-in. If you recognize that belly as a messenger rather than an enemy, you can start small. Try one of the foods above for a week and notice not only the mirror, but your sleep, your hunger, and the way stress settles into your shoulders. This is education, not a prescription. Consult a health professional for personalized care. We agreed to meet again in 6 weeks. I left her with a jar of fermented carrots and a note. Be patient with the body. It remembers patterns and it can learn new ones. As she walked away, her steps were purposeful, like someone who had found the map to a route she had already started traveling. There are more parts to this story: deeper dives into meal templates, stress management routines that lower cortisol without creating more pressure, and how hormones unique to women interact with these dietary strategies. When we meet next, I'll share simple breakfasts, quick pantry swaps, and a week-long plan that nests these foods into real life without drama. For now, take one small change and repeat it until it becomes ordinary. That's how biology rewrites itself.